And I sound weird, I feel like. Am I nasally? Great. I'm feeling nasally.
You do sound stuffy, yeah.
Yeah. Got a little
much crying
there. Oh, here we are. Did you figure out a way to get that in there? I didn't even listen to that. Those sound effects make it in the last...
The sound effects have been in there.
They have.
People enjoy the sound effects. Katie enjoys the sound effects.
Okay.
For the other episode.
I didn't listen all the way through. I haven't listened through my...
How dare you? How dare you not listen to your own show?
You're listening to the Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean, American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Welcome to the Janchi Show. We are back for another episode this week. My name is Nathan Nowak. I am 1/3 of the hosts here, along with KJ and Patrick.
Estamos aquí. Vamos.
Hello.
I always feel small when I say I'm 1/3 of the group. I always feel like I'm measuring height or something when I say that.
Then say you're, 3/12. 4/12. I mean, I know how to math. Shut up.
That's right, isn't it?
4/12 is right.
4/12.
3/12.
Well, I mean, also we could go 3/12 if we're throwing in Jerry.
I'm 33/100.
Jerry is technically a part.
33/100.
He's not a host, though. He's a part of the team, but he's not a host.
Team, good point. What is this team? What are we doing, guys?
This team is a collective of, well, that's not even true. This show is a collective of Korean adoptees chatting about what it means to be Korean adopted, human, etc. Janchi means to feast or to celebrate, and we are here to celebrate all of our intersectional identities, and then also eat a food or a drink at the end with a guest or with our bad selves or good selves.
With our bad selves.
With an
good is not a thing
break
you
into
are.
Song.
It's a thing you do.
We had a good treat this time.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did.
I still have a few left, actually, surprisingly.
What? How is that even possible?
It's because I, unlike others, am actually going to try to compare.
Wow.
Oh, I did. I went out the very next day and bought the comparative
and then he didn't send us pics.
Yeah.
Listeners, if you're wondering what we're talking about. I ate all of
the Korean ones, so anyway.
Everyone's like, what?
If you're wondering what we're talking about, you got to listen to the whole episode.
Exactly.
Skip ahead. Check out the show notes for the timestamps.
Yeah. That's cheating.
Yep.
That's cheating.
Just some current events before we get started. Happy March. Yesterday was March 1st, if you're listening to this live. So we would like to just take a moment in remembering the March 1st movement, which was the beginning of South Korea's independence movement. Way back in 1919, I think. I don't know. I should remember better because I literally just read the Wikipedia this morning, but it's been a couple hours since the morning. So also RIP Ralph Ahn, who passed away on Monday, which was yesterday, February 28th, who you might know him from New Girl as the actor Tran. You might also know him as the youngest son, I believe, of An Chung-ho, who was a Korean American patriot and activist. And yeah, so I first saw him when we were in LA receiving our award from CAFLA in like one of the videos. And I was like, hey, that's Tran. And he has a super deep voice. And I was like, wow, what do you know?
I feel like I remember you saying that.
He's a big dude in the Korean American space and probably also in the Korean space. So, yeah. Well, maybe not. I mean, he's a big dude in the Korean space because of his dad. But for us as a Korean American, yeah. So
you were right about 1919.
Nice.
For the March 1st movement.
He was Ralph Ahn was also a World War II vet. And I was like, whoa, holy cow. So, yeah.
He did a lot.
Yep. Then he went on to act. The more you know.
The more you know.
Yep.
I was about to burp again.
That's not the piano take, but you get it. You get it. Well, today we have a interview with an international guest, which was super fun.
Interesting.
Patrick, what should people be excited for with this interview?
I think
what
people should
be prepared for.
So people should be excited for a really incredible personal experience, a really incredible oral narrative. Elisa Noël, our guest, does a really great job of sharing her story. I will go ahead and place the content and trigger warnings here because she does discuss suicidal ideation as well as suicide attempts. So I have that marked in the show notes and the timestamps just in case you need that. So please refer to that as you move into the episode. It is heavy, but Elisa really just tells it unapologetically and really, really powerfully. I think that's the biggest thing I think people can look forward to out of this interview is just really how articulate and how well spoken she is when it comes to narrating all the trauma, but also the triumph and like really tying all of the things together that make up her story. I think it's really, really incredible. And I'm really excited to share it.
Yeah, it was very captivating. I know there was moments where we just didn't speak and we just listened for like a really long time because
usually the moments where we didn't speak, she was speaking. So
otherwise we shorten the silences because editing.
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
Amazing. Yeah, I just thought the interview was incredible and Elisa was so eloquent, especially for telling her story in English, which is not her first language.
Right.
Arguably that's none of our first languages, but you know what I mean? It's not the language she grew up speaking, but yeah, it's a lovely French accent. It is a really, really incredible story. So we can't wait for you guys to hear it. Anything we need to plug before we go into the interview?
Keep sharing the Adoptee Citizenship Act petition, please.
Yes.
We are crossing milestones as we speak. So really appreciate everyone's support on that. But that's all I have, Nathan.
What milestone though? What are we shooting for?
So right now we're shooting. Right now we're just shooting for as much support as possible. So that's as many signatures and as many letters, emails, and calls made to your congressional representatives as we wait to see kind of what the next steps for the bill is going to be. That's just the best thing that we can do. And the milestone that we just crossed was 10,000 signatures, which is really, really incredible because it shows that it's not just an issue that's affecting adoptees and that adoptees care about. If you check out the comments on the petition, all manner of people are raising their voices and supporting our impacted community members. So it's really
that they are human people who are getting involved.
Exactly.
So this is not a place for non-humans, but all of the human people are getting involved.
All the human people, yeah. But it's just been really incredible to see that support. So appreciate everyone who has been sharing and signing and talking about this. We're going to keep it going.
Yeah, good job, Patrick.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you can cut my joke. I think that's appropriate.
What was
I decided
your
to go for it. Oh, about the human people versus non-human people.
Oh, okay.
Although if you actually, you know what? You can't cut it because if you want to get your cat signed up for change.org and then have the cat sign the petition, I think that is... I say go for it,
I say go for it too.
That's what we're about on the Janchi Show.
Don't tell me.
Just
I don't know if that counts as fraudulent or not.
Create an account as Catrick Parmstrong.
I think they'll know that to me still. Because Parmstrong is technically many of my email or usernames.
No. It's Parmstrong.
Oh, I got you.
With a P-A-W. Right,
P-A-W.
Now we can go to the interview.
Now we can cut that joke because it's going downhill.
It's staying in.
We did it. All
right. Roll the clip.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show. We are here with our second international guest, Elisa Noël. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, all the way from Paris, France.
Mm-hmm.
And we are doing this late at night, so we will try not to keep you too late. We appreciate you staying up this late to talk to us.
That's okay.
Like if you've heard our shows, with all of our shows, we usually begin with your adoption story. So if you'd like to tell us a little bit about that, as much or as little as you'd like.
Okay. So I was adopted when I was 7 months old, in the 70s, the 76 actually. And I grew up I was an only child, and I grew up in the north of France. So I was in a countryside area, really, like there were not much Asian people around. I saw maybe 2 or 3 people sometimes in my school at first, but not much. Maybe it was 2 or 3 people maximum in my mind, in my memories. And so I always felt very, very white until last year, actually, with and so my parents really raised me as my mom always said, like it was like I came from her own womb. It was for her. There were no difference between me and her. My dad really loved me, he adores me. But my parents they made the first request to adopt a child, and they was rejected the first time. And I suspect it was rejected probably because they had some problems and some troubles between each other. I grew up in a broken home, and I guess maybe the investigation could maybe find some little suspicion about it. But they made a second request, and here I came. And then for my first memory, when I was maybe 5, I remember my dad was beating up my mom. So I tried to open the door, the back door, to try to find a neighbor to find some help. And my dad locked the door. And so that's one of my first memory I have when I was little. So most of my childhood and my teenagehood and after, it's been difficult because I've been growing up in a broken home. It's my parents. They're just I don't know how to say. They had a very special relationship, like between hate and I don't know if it's love or it's just codependency.
Mm-hmm.
And there were no limits. A lot of drinking from my dad, a lot of violence words. So it was not easy growing up in this kind of environment and atmosphere because you feel like you are the glue of the couple, and you feel like you are responsible for their happiness. You're responsible for them and for their emotions and everything. And I was a reason for them to stay together. So since I was little, a very, very early age, maybe 8 or 9, I think I started to think, life is not for me. I want to die. So I started to think of killing myself, taking my own life since I was pretty little. And I did my first attempt when I was 16. But it just stayed in my family with my dad and my mom. They didn't take me to see someone. And nothing has changed. Only maybe for 3 months, Dad tried to not to drink, but it didn't change much. And after I was 20, the second time I tried again, I had failed my degree. I was doing law school, and I felt like I was disappointing a lot my parents, especially my mom. And so I tried to attempt a second time, and this time I think I started to have a wake-up call. I was very, very disappointed when I woke up, like I was still alive. And so the year after, I got my degree, and the first things I did is I told my parents I wanted to go to live abroad. So I became a nanny, an au pair in London. And I felt like free and have like a new birth in my life, and started to be more independent. I was 22, 23 at that time. And actually, I met my best friend who was becoming a Christian. And it's very important to say, because I've been raised Catholic, so I had a little culture and a little environment of the Christianisms, but then I had no clue of the Bible, no clue of who Jesus was, no clue of anything about the gospel. And I just decided when I was 20 to stop believing in a God, or in the God I was believing in. And for 8 years, I became atheist. And so when I met my best friend, she started to talk to me about Jesus and everything. And I was like, no, it's not for me, but I can go to church with you. But to make the story short, like a few years later, when my boyfriend at the time broke up with me, my grandmother passed away, and I lost my job the same year, I had a huge breakdown, and I felt like I was really useless. I had always in my mind, like, you don't have any boyfriend, you don't have any kids, you're gonna be 28, you don't have any job, so you're really useless. So it's really pointless just to live and to survive and to struggle that much. So I was thinking to take my own life again, but at that time I was back to Paris, and I called my best friend at the moment as I was about to take my own life, and probably like the courage was not there anymore, the courage of dying. And I called her, and she said to me, well, just come to stay in London for a little while, I would take care of you. And that's what I did. And the first thing she did is she took me to church. And even if the other time I just didn't click with the pastor of the message, that day it was really God providence, I guess. I heard like the message saying, I will, in the Bible it's written like, I will never leave you, I will never forsake you. And in the Greek version, the original version, it's I will never, ever, ever leave you. And at that time, I started to cry and really to burst into tears. And I thought, oh my gosh, I wanted to take my own life. And I didn't know like there was a God who wanted me to live, and he wanted to take care of me. And this is how was my first step of becoming Christian. And it changed the whole perspective of my life after. Because I discovered prayer. I discovered like even my relationship with my parents were not that good. I could pray for them. I could pray for my relationship, and it changed the whole perspective. And so a month later, after I stayed at my friend's house, the last Sunday I stayed, a pastor came to talk about the depression. And I listened to what he was saying about what the lies we can hear in our minds when you are depressed, like, you're not worth, nobody loves you, this world is just a trash. And, well, a lot of things I was thinking, actually. And this is the day I decided, like, to follow Christ and to stop believing like I could do it by myself. And I say that because it's a part of my testimony, actually, as an adoptee as well. So that was in 2003 when I was 28. And so I went back to France. I studied the Bible, and I grew up in faith and everything. I went back to have a good job. And 2 years later, about a year and a half, actually, by coincidence, I met another Korean adoptee, and we had a good connection. We talked about our story. She was adopted the same year as me, and we were about to be 30. And she said to me, Elisa, did you try to find your own roots and your biological family? And for me, it was really out of question. I was like, oh no, I can't do that. I can't betray my parents. And, so I tried to talk to my mom once with my dad. And actually, when I started to kind of try just to say, what do you think if I was trying to look for my mom, she started to be really angry. And she started to be like, no, why would you do that? And, and even my daddy was surprised, actually. And so I never talked to them about that anymore. And for me, it was probably, I'm going to betray them. So out of question. But she said to me, I don't know how you're doing with relationship in with guys, but I always had problems for myself. So I think if one day I want to have kids, I'd like to know my own story. And she said it's very, very easy on internet now, and you can do it. Just you search on Google and everything. She gave me some tips, and this is how I found out the main agency was Holt. I had no clue. I had no information at all from that. And sorry, I'm trying to shake. It's just my body sometimes reacting to when I'm sharing my story. So if
you are all good.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing all that. Very, I want to say it's very moving to hear all of that as well. What you've gone through and how you came out through Christianity. I think there's a lot of stories that have that connection. During that time of exploration with Christianity, did you think about your adoption at all, as well as a connection at all with Christianity, or with just the verses that you heard in the church?
No, not at all. I made a connection years later. I just felt like, well, God wanted me to know He was by my side, but I never thought, because I was relinquished and I was abandoned, He used specifically that verse to me. It was really, I just felt at that time I needed to hear He was there for me. But I never thought at that time it was because I was relinquished. It happened really years later. Like I thought, of course, my favorite verse, my first verse is this one. And it's because I've been abandoned. Because for me, I've never been abandoned. I thought for ages, I thought I was just, I didn't want to think about what happened to me. So I didn't even put the word abandoned or relinquished in my story. So when I met this girl, she said to me, maybe you can try. And I was like, okay, maybe one day. But during the week, it came back to my mind, and I started to do some research. And I looked in different websites. It was in 2005. So at that time, there were not a lot of websites, but there were a lot of people who were ready to get paid for you to look for your biological families. So for me, it was out of question to pay anyone. And finally, after research, I found this very simple Hotmail address saying, like, if you need some information, you could just send a covering letter in English with the details you have from your birth and just the reason you wanted to, and your matriculation number. So I sent a very short email saying maybe, my mom one day, she just, the same year, she just said to me, it's time, Elisa, to have some kids because you're getting older, you are 30s, and your mom, your biological mom, she died when she gave you birth. And she never said that to me before. She just said that to me like out of the blue in the middle of a conversation. And I was like, you're very lucky. Like I never tried to find or to search my own roots because it's kind of weird you say that to me like that. And but I didn't want it to do any. She had a lot of power on me, so I didn't want to make a lot of scene. So I didn't try to understand why she knew that. And So I wrote that in my covering letter, and I said maybe my biological mother passed away while she gave me birth, and that's the only information I have. So it was on the, when I found the address, they were saying like it could take months or years before they're going to get back to you. So I have to be patient, everything. So it was on the Thursday. I sent the email. I remember precisely it was on Thursday. Monday morning, I got my
Wow.
Korean name on the topic of the subject, of your email with your Korean name. So my Korean name is Kim Eun-sun, we say, and with my matrical number. So I was like, what is that? And I opened the email and I said, so dear Elisa, it was really easy to reopen your file because your biological father has been looking for you for years. And every year since the 92, 82 or something, I forgot the date exactly, he was coming to Holt to see if you were showing any sign. Because until you haven't shown any sign, we couldn't tell him anything about you. And so the first line, you could imagine I was at work. I was completely shocked. I was like, oh, because I was not expecting anything. I was just expecting maybe some words like maybe I had a family, but I was not expecting like someone was looking for me. And so they said like my birth mother, was passed away after she gave me birth. So that was true. And I had two sisters, one sister from the first marriage and a second sister from the same mother and the same father. So for me, who was an only child, I was super happy, like I had two sisters. And so, but it took me some time. It took me a few months before I had the strength to contact them, actually. I wanted to tell my parents, and it took me a few months as well to tell them, actually. And when I told them, it was horrible. They just said to me, like, I betrayed them. They didn't want me to talk to them anymore. It was really like a nightmare for me. So no support at all. It was hard. But I was going to be 30s, and I decided to send an email a few weeks before to say I was ready to talk to them, because they said my parents said to me, you can do whatever you want, but don't talk to us about them anymore. We don't want to hear about them. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it by my own. And I received an email saying like they were very happy because my biological father moved away from Seoul, and I found out he was very sick. He has a liver cancer. And in my first email, what I forgot to tell you, it's very important, and you're going to understand why I have to tell you my testimony about becoming Christian. It was said like my biological father was a pastor. So for me, who in France, you have less than 1% of the population in France who is Christian, evangelical Christian. Before I became Christian in France, I never heard the word evangelical. I didn't even know like they were existent. I know Protestant, but not evangelical. So when I heard like my biological father was a pastor, my mind blew up completely. I was like, what? A year and a half before, I didn't even know the word pastor. And now my biological father is a pastor. Like, how can it be? And I was thinking, did he pray for me? What happened? Why did he, how a pastor can abandon his child? And, a lot of questions came to my mind. And so when they started to connect me, the whole connecting me with my family, it was easy. It was not easy for them at first because he moved away from Seoul. But they put me with my sister, my current sister. she was at that time in Thailand, and she speaks English. And the reason she speaks English is because my biological father always told her, since she was little, one day your little sister who is in Europe, you're going to meet her and you will have to talk to her. So she learned English for me.
Wow.
So she wrote me. We wrote to each other for months and years, and so I learned a lot of things. We did webcams through Yahoo Messenger, when it was the first time, and so my biological father saw me at first through webcam as well, and because he had this liver cancer, he wanted to see me. He was dying to see me. The expression was completely that, and I decided, because he wanted to come to Paris, and my sister was very concerned about the trip. So I said, okay, I'm going to go, but I couldn't tell my parents. So I have to go and to hide for 1 week to go to Korea without telling them I was going to Korea. And so then I found out actually like my biological father found me years before I found him, actually, through the Salvation Army. He sent a request to one of his best friends who was in the Korean Salvation Army. The Salvation Army of Korea wrote to the French Salvation Army, and the Salvation Army in France could find the address of my parents. So they sent some mail. They even had someone who used to work at the French Agency of Adoption who called my mom. She was retired at that time, so she was the only one at home. And this is how my mom started to freak out when she understand, I wanted maybe to try to find my own biological family. And this is how she knew, my biological mother passed away after she gave me birth. So I've got all of the record, all of the mail between the Salvation Army of Korea and France. They did the translation. They sent 2 letters of my Korean father translated in English and in French to my mom, and my mom responded back to him in French. And the last letter she wrote to him, she said, "You are a pastor, so you are a man of faith. For now, I don't want my daughter, who is not stable." She said she's not stable, and I don't want to disturb her with that until she doesn't make a step looking for you. I won't say anything. But she said, "You are a man of faith, and so you pray. And so maybe you can pray, like one day she can contact you, and I will have no reason to just to say no." And so I think he took it really like a personal prayer. And a year later, actually, he received that letter. I was sending my mail to Holt, and I could read in the Salvation Army mail, because it was fax at that time. I don't know why they were not emailing each other, but they were fax. So I have all of the copy of the fax, and they said so the mother doesn't want to give any news to her daughter, but we pray her daughter will contact by herself the father. So I saw all of in my story people were praying for me, and so for me it's really, really huge in my story, in the way I became Christian. And so when I came to see him, the first thing he did, he bowed down and he thanks God. So I thought wow, if I would have been Christian, I would have thought he's crazy or something is wrong with him. But it was very moving and very touching to see him doing that.
Wow.
Your story, Elisa, I really appreciate you sharing all of this, because I think when we first originally connected in Clubhouse, I know you shared kind of in bits and pieces, but to sit and really take in your narrative and your experience in its entirety, kind of just letting you go and tell the story. Like Nathan said, very moving, just extremely powerful. I think that how eloquent and how articulate you are with your story is really, really incredible, because there is a lot of pain in your story.
Mm-hmm.
When you said that you were shaking a little bit, just to recall, I think I could tell a little bit of that emotion coming through, but I felt like the entire time very steady. Like it feels like you are the expert in your lived experience, but it really felt like, you've been telling this story for a long time. It's just really, really powerful. And I feel like you articulated and shared very vulnerably and beautifully. So I really, really appreciate that.
I have lots of questions, and they're all very silly and, just kind of, but I think it's an opportunity because you're our first international adoptee to come and talk on the show. And so a lot of the experience of other Korean adoptees that we still have that shared kind of American history and
Mm-hmm.
what's going on in America that
Mm-hmm.
helps shape who we are and why we've entered into this journey now. But I'm curious, I know that you said that there weren't many Asian people in the part of France where you're from, but was adoption at all common where you were? Like, what was that like? And what was your relationship to being Korean? Was it a thing that you thought about much, or were you like, I don't know, I just want to live life and get through it and that kind of stuff?
Okay, so about the first question, I never really met any other Korean French adoptee, but you have to know, like, we are 11,000 in France, so it's a lot. We quite a lot. There is an association of Korean adoptees French in France. I tried to be connected with them when I found my family and everything. I went to a conference one day. But I felt like it was not my things. I always felt like people were kind of strange and have some really broken story. And I thought, well, I don't want to be with other broken people. So I was very judgmental towards them. And I'm sorry about that. But at that time, I didn't want to be connected with other adoptees. And during the time I was little, my parents tried. This is the way they say, like, they tried to connect me with Asia and with my country. But they tried to. One day I remember there were some Vietnamese worker who were the neighbors of my grandparents. They really liked to try to see them, to talk to them. These workers, they just love to, these Vietnamese people, they just love to see me because I was reminding to them, like, the children of their country. Mm-hmm. For me, it was just like, they're weird, they have a weird accent. But at the same time, as I grew up, I had a really funny way I had a weird relationship with Asian people. I really didn't want to look like them and to be assimilate to them as well. Mm-hmm. But when in the 90s, maybe when I was 18, I think, they started to have like some look with Chinese dress and Chinese outfit. Sometimes you can just wear. I was proud of wearing them because I knew it would suit me. So I bought a lot of Chinese dress, and I wanted to look like Gong Li. I don't know if you see the actress, Gong Li, the Chinese actress. Do you know her?
I'm not sure. No, I don't think so.
So it's a Chinese actress. She was in maybe Dragons. What was that? Well, they're very famous.
Hidden Dragon.
Yes.
Crouching Dragon.
Yes.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah.
Yes, and she's a mother, I think, of one of the main character. Anyway, she looks, for me, she was my Asian woman. Maybe I wanted to look like. Mm-hmm. I remember because she had some curves. She was not skinny because I'm not skinny, so she was not like the the stereotype of the French ladies at the time, like very skinny, it was that model I had in my mind. And because I had as well, I was doing bulimia. So sometimes for 4 years, I've been throwing up, So because I put on weight at a certain age as well. And sometimes when I was 13, I remember like I wanted to hide myself between sunglasses because I didn't want people knew like I had like a small eyes. So, but at the same time, when I was surrounded by white people, I was always happy to be the one who was different than the white people. But if you were telling me I was Asian, I would have been furious. And I would have told you, no, I have nothing to do with these people. If an Asian guy was looking at me, I was like, I don't want to to think like the guy thinks like I'm pretty. So I had a really weird relationship with Asian people until even when I went to Korea. For me, it was a struggle just to meet. I couldn't say at that time my people. I felt like I was a foreigner, a complete foreigner when I went to Korea. But I felt very comfortable to meet my sister, my two sisters. And my sister, they're both older than me. And my sister who speaks English, she translated everything to me. She was my translator. So she found out about the whole story at the same time as me, actually. Because she never wanted to ask any question to our father, and she didn't know anything about her mother either, how she passed away, anything. And actually, she passed away because she gave birth in a bad situation. She traveled to see her mom outside of Seoul. And she was taking a bus and it was bumping and everything. And when she arrived, she gave birth from me. And I think she probably died of septicemia because she had blood poisoning. But it was 2 weeks later. And so she was in a suburb and they didn't have a good hospital.
Right.
So it could completely broke the heart of my dad. And he was 30 at that time. He lost already his first spouse, and he had already another first child. She was 5. The second was 3, and me 2 weeks. So I was completely lost. And he was a tailor, so not very rich as well. And this is how, after now, I connect with all of the information you gave on Clubhouse about the traffics and stuff, because he gave me up because he had some influence of people surrounding him, telling him, like, you should send your daughters away because she will have a better life and everything. So this is what he told me when we met. And my sister, she confirmed it now. And he wanted to have me back the next day. He signed the papers, everything, just to send me to relinquish me. But the next day, he had lot of regrets, and he wanted to have me back. But they told him like it was too late because he signed the paper. So even if I was still in a country, I was still in I don't know where I was, in a foster family or maybe in an orphanage, I don't know. They said it's too late. Yeah, you signed the paper, you don't have any more rights to have her back. And I never really thought of that until I came to Clubhouse last year and I heard about the trafficking, actually. And I was like, and I talked to Sarah Jones. We talked a little bit and explained to me, how it works. And I was like, what? And I was really shocked. I remember I was really shocked about it. I was like, did I was a part of a children traffic, So anyway, he broke his life, all of his life. He became Christian 2 years later, actually, and because he was crying so much and he was completely broken. And he broke as well my two sisters' life because he was so broken. He became himself an alcoholic. He didn't take care of my two sisters. They grew up by themselves. He was a womanizer. He had a lot of women in his life and everything. And years later, he became a pastor. But he told me, like, at first he was a job because he was a good speaker and a good sharer. And it really, at the end of his life, like, he started really to, what we say, like, walk with Christ and becoming really, like, faithful. And he started to pray to see me. So that was the end of his life, and he remarried. And with his last spouse, they really pray a lot to meet me one day. So it was his whole life was completely broken because of me, and he broke my two sisters' life too because they were so unhappy with him. And that's sometimes it makes me really sad for them because I feel like my sister, sometimes she said to me, what do you think would happen if you were not adopted? Well, life would be different. It's difficult for me to answer that question, of course, but I say, well.
Yeah. I wonder, I mean, I've always asked myself that question, is what would my life be different? And even after meeting my birth family too, the same thing. They all wondered what it would be like to still be there. And they told me about the hardships that they had growing up. And, I mean, we compared childhoods and things like that. But in the end, there isn't any way of knowing.
Exactly.
There's no way. And so we have to just, move on with, how things turned out. I did want to ask you, how is your relationship with your sisters now? Have you seen them multiple times? Do you keep in touch with them frequently?
So I saw the first time I went, it was in 2007. I saw my entire family, my two sisters, their husband, my nephews. My older sister has two boys. And it was great. They really were lovely. They were lovely with me. They said, we are your older sisters, so we want to take care of you. So they paid everything. They really, I was by myself. And in 2014, I came back this time with my husband. And so my husband is about a part of my testimony as well, because actually my biological father's letter, he wrote at the end one day, like, he wanted to see me, and he said, no, Elisa, forget about the past. I just want you to be happy, and I pray for you to marry a good man. So it was nice. And when I met my husband, it was funny because just 6 months before was his first time he had been to Korea, and he really completely fell in love with the country. So it was weird for me just because he's from Haiti. His parents are from Haiti, so he's black. And for me, it was like the first time I saw his Facebook page, I thought, like, why does he have like a big, huge flag of Korea behind him? And I thought it was so weird, So anyway, I'm not going to tell you how I met him, but it was really funny. It was really funny, and so he loved the country. He traveled the whole country. He went to different. My husband is a pastor, and he was a student at the Bible college at that time. So he met in different church and everything, and he thought, like, the Korean was the most beautiful people on earth. And so when he came and when we met, of course, he was so happy just to go back with me. And they welcomed my husband, because I always said, like, I wanted to marry as well a black man. So for my sister, it was like nonsense. They said, how is it possible, like, an Asian girl, a Korean person marrying like a black guy? And so when they met him, my sister, she said, oh, you always said that to me, but I can see, like, oh, he's a good man. I wish dad could meet him. Because my biological dad, he passed away just a few months after I met him, 2-3 months after. And so actually my husband, he's the one who speaks Korean. He can write, he can speak a little bit. Wow. He took some classes in France. And he's trying to teach my kids our kids. But me, I don't know. It's not working for me. I try, but it's
I
not.
love that.
It's
I
not.
hear that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
hard
working.
language.
But yeah, I have a good relationship with my sister. We've been writing. She came twice in France to
cool.
see me, to meet my kids, and yeah, we try to stay connected through WhatsApp a lot. My older sister, because she doesn't speak English, we don't talk a lot, but I try to send some pictures. And the second time we went, I asked my sister if she could try to find some people of the side of our mother. And so she reconnected with two brothers, so two uncles for her, for me too, but two uncles for her. And the two uncles were not, the two brothers were not talking at that time. But at some point, she could reconcile them in between each other. But no, apparently they still don't talk to each other anymore. But she tried. So I met some cousins as well.
That's cool.
Very nice. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I'm wondering, so you talked about how you kind of got started when you just randomly met another Korean adoptee. And then you said that you had tried to kind of mingle with the adoptee association there in France, and it wasn't really for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then just last year, Clubhouse, that was how we connected originally.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering how that experience with the association played a role in how you connected with the larger adoptee community.
That's a hard question. I think I started to come out of the frog really with Clubhouse through your. I don't remember exactly how I crossed your page. I guess I try to remember because until last year I felt very white. And I was always telling people, I'm not like them. And it took me years really to appreciate Asian people, to be surrounding by Asian people. I feel like I'm okay to be surrounding with Asian people, because in 2010, for the first time of my life, I went on holidays with 10 French Chinese people. And it was because these friends, they grew up in France. And so they feel very French and very Chinese at the same time, because they've been raised by Chinese parents. So I started to have the first connection between me and them, because I felt like, they have the double culture. Even for me, I don't have the double culture. And then it took me years really just to try to appreciate Asian and then Korean and feel like including Korean. I think in 2020, I have my first interview in a podcast as a multicultural mommy. And I share my story. Was the first time, not in details like today, but still. And I don't know, after I thought, well, maybe I should try to find if there is some adoptees people on Instagram. And I think I started to look for it like that. And this is how I started to see some more information about the context of adoption, international adoption as well. Oh yeah, and I was about maybe you're gonna heard about that movie in US, because I think it's gonna be released in US, so it had been released already. It's called My Own Story. It's Own Story, I think. It's a documentary about different adoptees, international adoptees. From Amandine Gay. And I was about to be in that documentary, but I stepped out finally. My dad was still alive. My French dad was still alive, and I was not feeling ready. But she heard the story I've shared with you, and she wanted me to be in her documentary, but at the end I said no. So I guess maybe there were different pieces with the interviews, the documentary, and wanted to have more information about the context. And this is how I did the research. But sometimes it was very overwhelming as well for me. And I had to stop to listen and to read what I was saying because it was too hurting for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the first international story I heard, documentary with the Twinsters.
Mm-hmm. I watched it. Yeah.
Yeah, she's French, and yeah, I haven't really got to talk to too many international adoptees. I'm trying to, you're the first one, like we said, and I'm trying to think of all these really good like comparisons of growing up in Europe versus America. But everything that you said sounds very familiar.
Sure.
It sounds almost identical, where you grew up in, kind of a Midwestern or rural area. It's like
grew up in the Midwest of
France, right?
A predominantly white area.
Yeah, mostly white. And you didn't want anything to do with Asian culture. And then when you finally did, it was you stepped into Asian culture before you stepped into Korean culture. And it just resonates a lot with me, and I think with a lot of our listeners as well. Before we maybe transition here to food, did you get many, like, how is the Asian food in France? Like, have you had Korean food? Or there more so probably in Paris?
But today, actually, I had my bibimbap because I had to go to the Korean market. So I had a lunch with a friend to a good Korean restaurant, and I had a bibimbap, and I brought one for to my husband. He ate tonight. So we regularly we had, especially in Paris. I wouldn't say like it's going to be everywhere, but they have barbecue. They have Korean. They have Chinese. But Chinese and Vietnamese, they are probably made, Japanese as well. They made some meals like you can find only in Europe because it's not the original food you're gonna eat in China or in Vietnam, or they tried just to Europeanize
French version of it.
Yeah, a little bit of fusion. Yeah. We know that Nathan likes that.
Now I want French fusion Asian. I mean, like, now I'm really curious.
Well, when we go to Korea, we'll have to make a stop off in France to have some of that with us.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, Elisa, I just want to say again, thank you for sharing so much of your story, especially the vulnerable parts. Like Nathan said, there's so much of your story that's going to resonate with a lot of our audience, regardless of the fact that we're separated by oceans, or just one ocean. I don't know how that works.
There's technically
you can take the long
one
way.
ocean
No,
in the
you
entire
can't.
world.
Never mind.
Really
it still doesn't work.
Technical.
That's true. But it has been an absolute honor to be able to sit and experience your story. But we're going to take a really quick break, and then we're going to hop back in with a food, I think. Is it a food? We don't know. We'll figure it out, though.
Jump right back in. Welcome back to the Janchi Show food portion, international food portion. I don't know. I'm going to call it that just because
it's always an international food portion.
It's not always an international because it's always from Korea, but this is doubly international,
This is both oceans international.
Yeah. This is circling around. Elisa, thank you so much for a wonderful interview, and thank you so much for going to a market to find the same food that we are eating. I'm happy that you found it, even though I technically don't know what it is.
I was about to ask you, what is it?
KJ, I will explain what it is, and then maybe KJ can tell me what it actually says. So it looks like a chocolate Oreo.
It looks like it.
But it's got almonds or something. And then it says desert sand.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have no clue why.
The Hangul says rosen, and then beneath it says...
Actually, sorry, that's dessert.
White cream kamde. So I don't know what kamde is, but white cream, I got that much. And
I know that when there's an O shape in the Hangul, that the letter preceding it, the character preceding it carries over into that.
What?
Or something. I don't know if I'm explaining that right. Anyway,
we'll talk about that in a solo.
Yeah.
Feel confident and explain yourself later. You're probably right.
Patrick is trying to learn Hangul right now. So
shout out.
Yeah, I was trying to real time practice, and that did not go well. So, anyways, moving on.
That's good. Hey, on the back in English, it says lotte. This is, by the way, this is by Lotte. It says lottes and black malty.
I think it's Lotte's sand.
Oh yeah,
not
biscuit.
Lotte's and.
Lotte sand. Good point. Sorry.
Yeah.
Lotte sand black malty. I have
Because it also says sand on the front.
Oh,
Why is it calling sand?
It's in French for me as
sandwich?
well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what do you
Obviously.
say in French?
In French as well. Oh yeah, I know the ingredient in French actually.
Okay. Huh.
Because they put a sticker. They put a sticker on it, so translate.
Right. Yeah, we have the English sticker.
Coconut and almond.
Honestly, no clue. It looks like an Oreo, but I bet it's not going to taste like an Oreo.
Don't give these to your kids, Nathan.
I know it has a lot of stuff in it. Allergens. I saw that.
So we can eat now.
Yeah. Do it.
Okay.
Yeah, we do. We spend a good 2.5 minutes just examining the packaging and or trying to get the package open.
Okay.
Oh, it smells like an Oreo.
Yeah. Okay, I take that back. It tastes like an Oreo.
It does taste like an Oreo actually. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a big coconut person, and when I saw what I assumed to be a potential coconut thing on this package before, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like that.
You don't feel
taste
the
any
coconut.
Yeah, no
Oh,
coconut
this is
flavor.
like the smaller version of not necessarily an Oreo, but one of those.
It's an Oreo thin.
What is like a General Mills like product? Like they have these like cream cookies, like
Like
vanilla
did you find like
and
at a Walgreens or
strawberry.
something?
Yeah, something like a wall. Yeah. Okay,
Mm,
I don't
let's
like
just
that I
know.
can't spin this off easily. Oh, there we
Yeah,
go.
mine broke. I couldn't do
But
it.
it's not bad.
This is how I eat Oreos.
Okay.
Cookies like this. I
Yeah.
pull them apart
A lot of
in
people
this
do
way,
that. Yeah.
and then I eat one.
Thank you for explaining for the people who can't see your face.
Well, they get it. They get it now because I said explained it.
Listeners, you know what Patrick means when he says, I eat food by going like this.
Yeah, they could hear
We all
me
understand.
pulling. They can hear that movement because
Silently.
you put the
Yeah,
sound
when we
effect
normally talk
in
about it,
post.
we just put
in post.
everything in your mouth, though. So, why would you even separate it?
Because it gives me more cookie. It's like, oh, this is one cookie. Excuse me, it's two.
That's not how the math.
I'm glad we're
I
not
think you
doing-
forgot to carry the one.
I'm glad we're not doing
I
video.
carried it
'cause
apart
we might
from
have
the other
black
one.
Oreo in our teeth, right? I don't want to keep calling it Oreo, but I mean it.
I think it would be
if-
better with some. Oh, sorry, Nathan.
Yeah, milk, right? Dip it in some milk.
I'm not a big fan of milk, but I would say like tea or chocolate. Yeah, a hot cocoa.
Oh, there you go.
I'm not gonna lie. If you blindfolded me and put one of these in front of me and an Oreo in front of me and asked me to tell the difference, I don't think that I could.
I don't think I could either. I was gonna mention that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
this
it's
tastes
very
almost,
similar.
I think, identical to an Oreo to me.
Maybe it's a bit less sweet because I guess the Korean people will put less sugar. They're not a big fan of sugar, so
Definitely less filling.
Yeah,
less filling. Yeah.
This is not double stuffed.
No, this is like half stuffed.
Yeah,
It's like
that's classic.
Like imagine it's like an Oreo thin, and then they cut that in half, and that's how much cream there is.
But expanded the size of the cookie part.
I mean, I don't know. The cookie seems
Slightly-
smaller than normal too.
No, I think you're
It's
right.
just-
Yeah,
It's all small.
in
So I'm wondering
diameter, definitely smaller.
it says sand. I'm wondering if it's saying sand is like short for sandwich, a black sandwich, right? Because it's a black Oreo type cookie.
That would make
I don't
sense. But the
That's the only thing I
humble
can
just
come
says
up with.
it just says sende. So I don't know. Like it just says lotte sende and then
Yeah,
gamde. And I
Yeah.
tried
Maybe
looking
because
up
you find
gamde.
coconut in desert sand.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't feel
know
the
how that
coconut.
tracks.
yeah.
I don't taste any coconut either.
at all.
Is there even
But yeah,
coconut in the ingredients?
Yeah,
Is it?
it's one of
What?
the nuts. In the
You're
black
one of the
strip.
nuts.
Hey,
Maybe it's just a nut. No, because I don't see any coconut on the ingredient in French.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
it
think it's
says
just marketing.
manufactured in a facility that has that. It actually doesn't say that it's in it.
oh,
Yeah. It said vanilla, but not.
I didn't read all of the words. I only read the parts that I wanted it to be true. I wanted it to be true.
All right, well, let's
Well,
jump into ratings.
Yeah.
Elisa, how about you kick us off? Out of 5, how many coconuts do you give this dosain?
You mean the cookie?
Yeah.
Mhm.
3.
3 out of
5.
Okay.
3 to 5, yeah. But
What would you get?
between
what would
the
you give
French
an Oreo?
cookie and the Korean cookie and the American cookie, I would say it's just in the middle. Because the French,
Which one's on top? Now I gotta know.
I guess the French cookie are the best, of course.
Ooh.
All right. Well, that makes sense. That makes a lot of
Me.
sense.
I'll allow it.
Yeah. I have to say, I mean, come on, French pastries, French know how to cook, so I can only assume that their cookies are.
They know how to bake.
I've never been to France. It's on my list.
You have to
as we
come. You
discussed
have to
earlier.
come.
Yeah.
You'll be welcome.
Hey, and now that I know there's 11,000 Korean adoptees out there too, that's great.
He's really just going for the food, though. Don't let him lie.
So for me, yeah, I will say, because I like Oreos, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I would probably give an Oreo 4 out of 5 as well. So I'm giving it the same rating. For me, it's good. I don't see anything bad with it. Chocolate sandwich cookie. So I would eat it just as much as I eat Oreos, which is very little.
Well, I eat Oreos very little because I would eat them a lot if I had them in my possession.
So you own Oreos very little.
Yes, I own. Yes, there you go. I own Oreos not often. But when I do own them, they do not last very long. And I can say that these will not last very long post-recording. So I'm going to go ahead and give these a 4.5 out of 5. The only thing that would bump them up would be size. And that's just my Americanness coming through. I need a full-size Oreo because this is just like a tease. Even though they give you a decent amount in this one box.
You mean like
Which,
in,
by the
in
way, thank you
America,
for
is
sharing
are
this
they
fact.
bigger? Are they bigger?
Yeah, I think they're a little bit like bigger in diameter
Okay.
and definitely thicker. in
Okay.
cream.
I would say this is a 90% of an Oreo. It's not that much difference in size.
75%.
What? No,
75?
it's definitely more like 90%.
I'm thinking
Okay,
90.
80%.
Patrick, you
Go
gotta
buy
chill your
yourself
eyes
a
down.
Oreo.
75%. 76%, I mean.
Tomorrow I'm gonna buy an Oreo just to compare. I will tell
gosh.
you. Okay? In
I'm getting
France,
all
I think
that
they are
one.
really small.
Yeah. We're going to hashtag this
Great.
fact check Patrick.
Oreo gate.
Yeah. Oreo gate.
Oreo gate.
All right, what about you, KJ? Round us out. Or close
Okay, I'm
us
going to
out.
give it a 4.5 out of 5 as well. I did some quick research, and the nutrition facts between an Oreo and this Gosane is about the same. There are some differences. Per serving size, it's about the same serving size, the same grams, but the Dosane has more calories, which is interesting. But I will say one of my because I love Oreos, and especially with milk, even though these days that wrecks me, it's worth the pain. I like that the box that it comes in comes with 2 inner packages. Each inner package is a serving size. It's not like you don't get like a thing of Oreos with 4 sleeves and you're like, well, how many am I supposed to eat? I don't know, probably just the whole thing.
One whole row,
and so
at
like
least.
it's much harder to do the self-control
It's
bit.
portioned,
But with
right.
this, yeah, it's like it's just much easier. I don't have to feel as guilty about it. So I think they're basically the same as Oreos, maybe 10% smaller, or Patrick thinks they're 25% smaller, like a nerd.
I'm
But
maybe
yeah,
going
so
off
I
the
think they're
King
really good.
double stuffed Oreo.
So yeah, okay. So 4.5 out of 5 from me.
I like that. I was thinking that I do enjoy that it's 2 separate or 2 individual packages with 6 each, because in a sleeve, a single sleeve of Oreos, there's only 8. So you get a little bit more in this. And also you don't have to buy the huge box of 3 long sleeves.
The fact that you
And that's
know
it.
that is scary. But Elisa,
Told you to.
thank you again for coming on the show and for telling your story and for just sharing such a late night.
Thank you.
For listeners, it's an 8-hour difference from us, or from me, I guess. So it's midnight in her time. So she almost 1 a.m.
It's
but,
1 a.m.
it's
1
1
a.m. 20.
We
yeah.
will let you go, but before we do, is there a place, Instagram or email or someplace that you share that you want, if anyone wants to contact you, that
Sure.
they could?
Oh yeah, you can share my Instagram. It's you were gonna put it on
Yeah,
we'll
put it
write
in
it
the
in the
show
show notes.
Because it's not easy to say it in English, I guess. So,
Say it in French. That's okay.
Yeah, how is it?
Our-
Is it le jour in French?
Le jour où, yeah, means the day when. It's exactly.
So what does that mean? Or
The day when.
the day when?
The day when, yes. Because I try to start. I've got a blog, and each post starts with the day when, and because it talks about different topics. There is no common theme, and so I started to do the same on the Instagram after. Yeah, I just want. Can I just share one little things quickly? I just thought, when I became a mother, I had a huge postpartum for 5 years. It's been running 5 years because I had 2 kids. But the things, it kind of hit me. I don't know if it's going to resonate with other Korean women who are mother. It's just when I got my firstborn, when he was crying, it was really hard for me to listen to his cries, and I didn't know why. And he started to, it hit me only like last year when I read and I listened another testimony of a Korean adoptee. Actually, she said, because when you hear the cry of your infant, you feel like, how is it possible you can have been relinquished? Because the baby needs so much her parents, especially the mother, and to be linked with the mother. So it hit me at that time like so many traumas I went through since I was a baby. And so it's done the abandonment. When you start your life with an abandonment like that, you had such a big trauma. It's normal for us as adoptees to overcome a lot of trauma, a lot of hardship. But it's normal as well to have some kind of flashback. I wouldn't say like I can remember as I was a baby, but it's normal as well. Sometimes when you become a parent, to have another stage of your life to hit you back. I don't know if it makes sense.
It's same for me. I'm much more sensitive to my kids crying than my wife was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
really
interesting.
So
that is interesting.
Yeah, that's a whole story. We can talk again on another episode. But
well, our bodies hold that stuff in, and I think
I
think that is going to resonate with a lot of people, a lot of our listeners. I think, and not whether they're mothers or not, but I think it is especially going to resonate. It obviously resonated with Nathan, something that he's
who I have on good authority is not a mother. So
yeah, I've heard that. But yes, Elisa, we will definitely link your Instagram. We'll probably even link your blog down in the show notes. So if you want to connect with Elisa, make sure you go there. You can find her on Instagram. If you want to connect with us, you can find us on Instagram and all the other social media platforms at Janchi Show. You can go to janchishow.com to learn more about the show and support us in multiple different ways. Also do other cool things. I don't know what's on there, but I know we got a cool resource list that we just got shouted out about. So thank you for that. You can also send us an email to janchishow@justlikemedia.com if you have any comments, concerns, or just things you want to share with us about the show. You can also leave us a voicemail, because we have that capability now, at 972-677-8867. So excited to start sharing some of the messages that we get and we've been getting. I don't know. I don't have access to the mailbox. So other than that, if you could go onto Apple or Spotify and leave us a rating or review, that would be great. That not only feels good to us, but it helps us get more exposure for the show, to continue getting exposure. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyways, if you want to talk about me or find me rambling and talking about nonsense, you can find me on Instagram at Patrick in the World.
Thanks,
Nathan.
My exposure would be on Instagram at nnowak.
I decided I'm not going to make this joke, but you can find me on the internet wherever I want to be found at KJ Realkey.
Perfect.
And that is our show. Elisa, thank you again so much.
Thank you very much for welcoming me.
Yeah.
I had really
I hope the cookies don't keep you up at night.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So listeners, thanks for hanging out with us. Until next week, Janchi, heyo.
Heyo.